Dr. Savage, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks. Well, it's very fun. And Paul, it's always Paul.
I'm so formal. I'm just going to call you Paul from now on.
Most people do. I mean, if they want to get formal, they call me Dr. Paul. Because the thing is, Dr. Savage, I mean, it's cool, but
Well, see, that to me, well, A, I look up to you. I mean, you're a legend in the space. So this is like an act of respect. B, I think it's such a badass name. So it's like, why wouldn't you own it?
yeah, I love it. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. It's a great play. But also the other thing, it's about all of us is, you know, thank you for the compliment of being big in the industry. But when I look over my head, I don't see expert. I see student always, because that's my strength.
Amen. Hey, that's the best healers, the best experts in their space have that mentality, right? I mean, they're always curious and wanting to learn. They don't have an ego in the way. And if they do, it's at least ego in check. It's not like running their life. That's very wise. Wise words for any space that you're in. To be a student of life and your field. And we never stop growing. And there's a reason why in medicine and healthcare we call it practice, right? There's a practice to it. There's a science and art to it, of which we need to own both. Catch me up to speed. I mean, how have you been, man, since we talked last?
I've been great. I mean, it's been, I've always known that there's a power to the universe, whatever you want to call it, God, a higher power. I've always known that. But what's been going on with us in this project for the last 2+ years is just every day reaffirming that there's something going on here that's pushing this project in a meaningful and purposeful way.
That's amazing. I definitely, of course, I'm a man of deep faith about this, about life as well. And there's such a synchronicity when you're in your lane in the best way, at the right place, right time. There's a magic to that, and having these serendipitous, God threads of God in a way, right? That everything's connected, and you kind of see the bigger picture, which you don't always get. It's not always that, but when you do see it, you appreciate it. It's a massive blessing to see it. So what? Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, my grandfather taught me, because he was the minister of our town. He taught me very early on, it doesn't matter how you find God or your higher power. The only important thing is that you find it. And I hold that to heart, because a lot of people that I know also believe that this is a simulation, and that's okay too. Because if it's a simulation, then you're playing the game. And when you're playing the game right, like any video game, it gives you rewards, and it entices you to keep moving in that direction. So I find it compliant with everybody, as long as the major thing that people take away from it is you're not God. Yeah, that's good.
Right. Back to that ego. Some people believe 100%. They are. Yeah. Oh, Lord. Okay, so let's kind of frame this, because I want people to know, because we've been talking offline about all the exciting stuff you have going on. I'm excited for you to share it with everybody today. Yeah. Let's kind of set the stage for people that don't know and catch them up to speed of what the things we see clinically. And you have such innovative protocols that we're going to get into today for people to do in their life. But what are we facing as a society as far as environmental toxins? What's the state of the union, as it were?
It's interesting, Will, that, I've been a doctor for almost 40 years now, which is it just gets me crazy to think about it. And for the first 10 years, I was one of the top ER docs in one of the largest trauma centers in the world, until I got sick. And I sought out this field because there had to be a better way. Like, we've all heard the story. And the fact is, there is. I like to tell people all the time, I'm not against medicine. I think there's a great application for it. I think there's, in the right time, the right person for the right things, it's very important. Mm-hmm. However, there's more to life and the body and medicine than just pills. So we have to acknowledge that part too. The other part is, at a very early age, back in the early 70s, I remember seeing the first Indian commercial, The Crying Indian, where he's seeing all this trash in the river. That was in 1971, and I'm 9 years old. I remember that because it was so impactful. And we knew then that we were in trouble, that we were heading towards trouble. So this it's a new thing in the world of the last decade or the last century, because it's really only started picking up with the invention of the car, and then the industrialization. and then in the 70s with the pollution that started, and there were people warning us the whole time. The issue is we have not heeded the call. The government has not heeded the call. I love watching you at Kellogg in Michigan, my home state, because Michigan is a problem state and Kellogg is a problem company, and the government has a problem dealing with toxins. We are one of the largest producing toxic countries in the world. Us, China, and the Middle East, especially the central part of the Middle East. Everybody else is amazing. All these other countries around us in the EU, they got it. They got it a long time ago. They figured it out, and they're not doing it. But our country is poisoning our citizens at an alarming rate. And so why I bring that up is because for 30 years I've been doing toxin testing. Now, I've had students, and many students have students, and they don't remember back in the day that people didn't have toxins. They don't. I do, and the people who I've been around, Dr. Pam Smith, Dr. David Zava, Pat Hanaway, Mark Hyman, we all remember back in the day when people didn't have the toxins. Once in a while, we saw lead. Once in a while, we see mercury. Once in a while, we see petroleum, like gasoline injuries, and we'd see those. But they were easy to people. I knew it.
Yeah.
Then about 20 years ago, we started really seeing a pickup on it. And then 10 years ago, significantly more. I remember in 2017, as I said before, I got interviewed about the Flint lead crisis. And I'm like, why are we talking about Flint? We need to be talking about everywhere. This is already an issue. The thing is, being in this field of integrated medicine, is that we've had the opportunity to watch the toxin grow and at the same time watch the chronic inflammation grow, and at the same time watch the chronic inflammatory disease grows. And these things are not disconnected. They are one hand in hand, the same thing. And the fact that we have to be shouting to the government to stop poisoning its citizens is insane, but that's what we have to do. That's where we're at. The other part is there has been no way to get these out. I mean, and my colleagues and I, we tried for 20 years. One of the physicians and scientists we're working with built all the protocols to get toxins out. He had 47 different protocols. This is for this mold. This is for this heavy metal. This is for this pesticide. This is for this, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing about the toxins, and this is what your listener needs to understand, the toxins are the major cause of chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is heat, it's fire. And it's like a forest is on fire. And the toxins are making all the trees on fire. And going in and taking out one or two trees does nothing to get rid of the fire. You got to take them all out. That's the only way to put this fire out. And that's the solution that's been evading us for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
The detox diets, they don't work. They just give you antioxidants and inflammatories, which put down the fire, but they don't get the toxins out.
Yeah.
And so what we've done and what we've manufactured to an incredible degree is we've come up with the solution of getting the toxins out, all of them.
Amazing.
Whether we can test for them or not, safely, effectively, universally, and it appears permanently, because we have people now 2 years out still without toxins coming back in. There's 3 phases we can discuss.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, we're going to dig into that. So let's talk about some of the specific, you touched on some of the toxins that we're seeing more and more on labs. Microplastics are one of them. Can you talk about that? People are hearing it more and more in the news, studies coming out, it's hitting the headlines. What's going on there? Where is it coming from, and what's it doing to us?
So like you said, Will, there's been a lot of the key toxins in the industry we talked about for a long time. And the industrial ones, the pesticides, the herbicides, the things made from things that make plastic softer, we call them phthalates, the environmental macroparticles, the gasoline. But the plastics is the one we haven't really talked about or even looked at for a long time. Part of the reason is it doesn't take a lot of plastics in a person to make them sick. Mm-hmm. And so detecting the plastics in the body is problem number one. Detecting the plastics in anything is a problem, because you're talking about various sorts of many different types of particles. PVC, they all have their 3-letter PVC, PMC, and there's just a whole plethora. But let's say we focus on the top 9, which we know are in the environment. We're just now getting to the point where we're looking at how to test for these safely, effectively, and cost effectively. When we first started what we were doing 2 years ago, we were sending our samples to France at $1,000 a vial to find out how much microplastics particles per milliliter. Now we're working with a company that is developing a way to poke your finger with 1 drop of blood and we get a better count. And we think that this is going to be the way to detect microplastics. Matter of fact, we're so certain of it, we're actually undergoing a study right now, controlled study comparing the blood samples to the dry blood spot samples. And we're very excited to be looking at the response. But everything from biochemistry and physics says this is going to be better. Now then we have a way of measuring. So a lot of the problems with microplastics has been measuring. It's just what could be done by the big institutions that had a lot of money to pour all this money into slicing and dicing all these tissues and all this blood. Now we're getting to a point where it's going to become more opportunity for everybody on the street.
So what are the, I guess, top offenders for people that aren't aware of the origins of microplastics? What's the biggest offenders of where we're being exposed to these microplastics from?
So it's everywhere. I wish I could say water or food or air, but I would have to say if you want to narrow it down, it's food. I mean, you're literally eating a credit card of plastic every month.
Yeah.
That's the current gestalt on that. But it's in the water too. And the difficulty with the plastics now, when you're looking at a heavy metal, it's a heavy metal. It's always going to say heavy metal. When you're looking at a chemical like a pesticide, it's a pesticide. It might have a metabolite or two, but it's always saying it's a pesticide. The problem with the microplastics is they start out in big pieces of plastic, and then they become, as they break down, they become smaller and smaller to microplastics, and then smaller and smaller and smaller to nanoplastics, and smaller and smaller and smaller to xeno. I mean, these never go away.
Yeah.
And they've been broken down, and they're broken down by sunlight. You want them to break down, but you want them to break down in a safe environment, which is not what we're doing when we're throwing these gazillion tons of plastics in the ocean, because that's just exposing them to the sun. They're breaking down. And now these little nanoparticles are small enough to actually interfere with DNA. And when you start messing with the book of life, now you really got a bad thing going here. So of all the different things we've talked about in toxins over the years, and we've always said pesticides are right at the top of the list, PFAs are the forever chemicals, top of the list, many of the heavy metals, top of the list. Microplastics is probably going to beat all of them.
Yeah. And as you touched on, any plastic can become a microplastic or a nanoplastic when it's degrading, right? It's exposed to heat and time, right, as they degrades and starts to break down. So,
and the problem is, the smaller the particle, the more dangerous it is. The bigger particles we don't think are nearly as dangerous as the very small particles because of the way they damage the DNA.
Right. Okay. So they're damaging the DNA. Can you talk about specifically, just when you talk about aging, right? And maybe people don't have a chronic disease. What a blessing. But they're coming at it from more of an optimization standpoint, and they're interested in longevity. What's the connection there between these environmental toxins and health span?
So by the definition, toxins are not good. I mean, and people like, and so you have to understand there's nothing good with toxins. And it's not anymore that there's one toxin that we have to worry about, like microplastics. The problem now is the cumulative weight of all the various type of toxins in each person's body. Where we used to be worried about 1, 2, 3 toxins, now it's more the cumulative weight of all of these toxins. So you may not be able to detect any of them, but there's a little bit of 140,000 of them in you. You're in trouble, because that's a significant load of toxicity. So we're now starting to talk about the toxic load instead of the toxin. And when you start talking about the toxic load, it does everything bad. It interferes with hormones. It interferes with DNA. It burns tissue. It heats tissue. There's not a single thing that goes on in biochemical pathways of the body that these toxins don't mess up. So what it does is basically take this high performance race car. It's an engine with a combustion engine. It's got movable parts. It's got an onboard computer. It's got electricity running through it. It runs on gas, and you're putting brakes, and I mean literally brakes and toxins at every different level. So what does that mean for the long-term health of everybody? Everything bad. You said not everybody has chronic toxins and chronic inflammatory disease. I would say not yet.
Yeah.
Because at the rate that the toxins are coming up, it's just a matter of time, because we're seeing cancer in the 40-year-old, Alzheimer's in the 50-year-olds. We're seeing autism increase at an alarming rate. And I've been saying this for 20 years. And with all the respect to the moms and the vaccines, it's not the mercury in the vaccines. It's all the toxins and everything, including the mercury in the vaccine. It's just that dose of mercury on these kids, which already have a huge amount of toxins, was enough to throw them over the top. So I'm not saying that vaccines and the mercury are safe. I'm just saying it's not just that.
Right.
When you start looking at the human species as a whole, the most vulnerable of it is the fetus.
Yeah.
Because we're developing, we're growing, we're dividing. And that the toxins effect at that point in life is devastating. So when you want to know why autism is increased from 1 in 2,500 to 1 in 36, and the pediatricians are like, we're diagnosing it better. I'm like, I'm a mathematician. That means you were missing 99% of the people 40 years ago. That's not possible. Because I was a kid 60 years ago, and I don't remember autistic kids. And I wasn't in a big town. We had about 5,000 kids. By that rate, we would have 100 autistic kids, and we didn't have one. So there's something else going on here. And any genetic pediatrician will tell you, it's the toxins. And mimicking Carvel, it's the toxins, stupid. It's always the toxins.
Yes. I love James Carville, by the way. He's like amazing. He's still going at it.
Like you and me, we're going to tell it like it is.
That's right. That's right.
You know, government be damned. People, doctors be damned. We're going to tell you what the truth is, and then let's go figure out how to fix it.
Yeah. Like you said, it's not just one thing for people that like that's their thing. It's cumulative. It's a confluence of factors. And it's different from person to person too, right? Some people are exposed to more things versus other things. And we all we'll talk about genetics. Obviously genetics plays a role.
That's the other half. That's the other half of the equation, right?
Yeah.
It's the where and how you're getting the toxins in. And absolutely it's an economic thing and a socioeconomic thing. And then the genetics, because these toxins and this inflammation is going to take you out where your genes are the weakest.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I kind of think of it in a way, the way they were doing things and kind of this cumulative confluence of factors that are at play here. It's like a massive proverbial stress test that we're putting our physiology under. Wouldn't you see it? You know, do you see it like that?
I consider it a fatal test. Because the end of it is accelerated, not only aging, but accelerated.
Right. It's like how much can the human body handle, and then look at all of these variables. Right.
If you want that answer, take a very high performance race car and ask any mechanic, how much can I alter this or that? And you're going to break it with just that small degree. If we weren't so high tech and high performance, we would have a lot more leeway, which is why the animal kingdom on the lower levels are doing better with the toxins than we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So something that I know you talk so eloquently about that I don't hear that many of us, you know, in our space, people talking about it is environmental toxins and mental health, which I've seen first rate with telehealth patients. And I want you to talk about it. What are we seeing there?
So what we do know, I mean, there's a lot of different studies, but the end study is, I don't believe that all these anxieties and these depressions and all these various manifestations of psychiatric diseases are just you and your psyche. It's the toxins. Your brain is a very high-end computer. It needs a stable solution to be sitting at. And when you start heating up that solution from all the cytokines and all the inflammation that comes from the toxins, and then you poison that solution with toxins that interfere with the electricity of how it's not anywhere out of the reach of imagination to understand that's going to give you problems from a mentation point of view, from an emotional point of view, because they work in the same chemistry here. When you start seeing the people who've been able to get their toxins out, you see a improvement in their depression score. You see a reduction in their anxiety score. You see an improvement in their mentation. All these things that you would expect to see, you start to see. The problem we've had previous, is we haven't been able to get all the toxins out. Because just getting the mercury out or the aluminum, which has a connection to Alzheimer's, isn't enough. You have to get all of them out. And in doing so, you turn off the inflammation. And in doing so, the tissues can then heal.
Yeah. All right. So I want to get into the plasma exchange protocol. I'm such a fan of it. Like for people that don't know what it is, and what is it for people that don't know, and then why is it so effective?
Sure. So therapeutic plasma exchange, also known as TPE or apheresis or plasmapheresis, it goes by different names. It's an oil change for humans. I'm an old country boy. We used to have cars. We used to get them in the auto shop back in the 70s. And the first thing we do is change their oil, put sparks in them, put gas in them, put water in them, put air in the tires, and then go. If they could run, we'd run them around the block for a couple of weeks, and then we'd bring them back and dump the oil out, dump everything, and put everything back in new. And we keep doing that repeatedly. We do it 6, so however long it took to get the oil to run clean. But when the oil ran clean, then you can start repairing the car. But until you got all that stuff out, if the car was running, it wasn't going to do a lot. Plasma exchange is a process that's been around for 50 years. And the process is very simple. It's a lot like a plasma donation. It's a needle goes in your arm, your blood comes out, it goes into a machine that separates it into the liquid part, which we call plasma, and the cell part, which is the blood product, the blood cells itself. But then what we do is we throw the plasma away because that's where everything bad is. It's where all the toxins are. It's where all the inflammation is. It's where all the various infections, all these different things. So we're taking the bad plasma, throwing it out. We're giving you a product called albumin, which is a human protein. It's basically a liquid that we can mix back into your red blood cells. It's sterile. It's clean. It has nothing in it. And then within the next day, your body produces baby fresh, new, non-inflamed, non-toxic, non-oxidized, non-cancer, non-infected plasma. And then we let you go run around the block for about 4 weeks, and we do it again. And every time we do it, we can see the plasma coming out, and we can watch it change from cloudy and dark to lighter. And we can see the trash every time we're throwing it away. And right now we're doing studies on colorimetry, checking the color of it and the consistency of it, because we're starting to be able to look like, oh, we know what toxins are coming out in the plasma now. Through these different procedures, we're having a lot of fun with patients because we're treating them like a car, and they just get giggles through the whole time. But it's very safe. It's very effective. I mean, it's been around for 50 years. We have a machine that does it, and the machine has a very hard time that you can't mess with it. So I always tell people they read online about the high side effects, and I'm like, you're looking at plasma exchange with human plasma, not plasma exchange with albumin. Big difference, because when you're in the medical field, and I'm an old ER doc, giving somebody repeated doses of plasma in the ER, you're just wondering how many you give until you get a transfusion reaction that's going to kill them. That's not what we're doing. We're doing the same process, but we're using a commercial product called albumin, which is a human protein, comes from plasma donations, but like many other things in the blood products, it's so sterilized and what we call stomped on, that at this point it's completely sterile and clean. And we've tested the albumin for everything for 50 years, and there's nothing there. People are like, well, there's viruses. There's no viruses there. There's toxins. There's no toxins there. Matter of fact, we sent a whole vial, 3 vials, to France to check them for microplastics, and they're not there either.
Amazing. So what are the environmental toxins that you're seeing pre and post? You've sent me some of the lab data. It's astoundingly amazing that you can get these results. Like, what are you seeing on the labs?
So first off, let's make sure that people understand we test everybody for the toxin before we go in. I mean, I will let people do one TPE if they do want to do it for longevity, but our purpose is to get the toxins out of people.
Yeah.
And that's what gives you the longevity. I mean, and this is what we made the connection nobody else did. And so what we did is put together a protocol around the plasma exchange, because it's not just doing the plasma exchange. It's also teaching people how to avoid putting plastics back in. It's also giving them a supplement, which is basically everything that's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, detoxification, energizer, because just like when you do a plasma exchange that cleans out all the car, now you got to give it back what it needs to run. So we have patented that formula as well. Then there's other things that we do. And then we move on after the plasma exchange to what we call a healing or a health stage, where we're regenerating if there's any injury. And then we move on to a maintenance phase to make sure you don't get it back in. So the plasma exchange protocol that we developed at MD Lifespan is very extensive. And we're starting to point the gun, as it were, at various different things: the brain health, the heart health, the autoimmune issues. And we can talk about all those and the results we're seeing. And the toxin part is the main engine that every one of the protocol uses, because until you get the toxins out, it doesn't work. And that's what we've known in medicine for 40 years, especially integrated medicine. Some people responded, other people didn't. And over the last 20 years, that number went down and down as the number of toxins went up and up. And again, we knew that. We just couldn't get the toxins out.
Yeah. So you're seeing these toxins really come out. Is it one session? How many sessions, how quickly, I guess, can people start seeing a turnaround in the
Sure.
positive direction?
So as soon as 2 sessions, because each time we do a plasma change, we're taking about 70% of your plasma out and giving you back the same amount of albumin. So there's no low blood pressure. And your body can do this very easily. And then 4 weeks later, we do it again. So the first time we take out 70%. And then you're coming back, and imagine this: you have a bathtub filled with water. We took out 70% of this old dirty water. We poured in 70% of clean water, and now it's diluted out. Then you come back another time, and it's kind of gotten a little bit more dirty because of the dirt that was in it, plus the dirt that came in it that was out in the body and found its way back in the plasma. And we take another 70% out, pour clear liquid in it. We keep doing this. We keep diluting down, diluting down, and diluting down. So different people have a different response time depending on how toxic they are. But we're seeing on average, and this is the interesting yet scary part, we test over 100 toxins on everybody. Same test we've been doing for 20 years. This is not any different. But this time we're seeing on average, anybody who we test, the healthy people, they have 13 toxins out of 100 each, with 5 of them being in the 95 percentile and higher. And these are not good toxins to have: glyphosate, BPA, lead, mercury, PFAs. These are what's coming to the top of that list at this point. So nobody's immune. As a matter of fact, of all the hundreds of people we tested, one person was free of toxins.
Who was this person? Who was this unicorn? Is what I want to know.
I can't tell his name, but his name is Scott. And I was like, I still think he cheated.
Yeah.
And we're going to retest him because I just don't believe
No.
that he didn't have any. Now, when I say don't have toxins, I mean, we don't have toxins according to the government's range that they say is, and it's not what level you're toxic, it's what percentage of the population has this amount of toxins in it. Are you in the upper 5% of that toxin? Are you in the upper 25% of that toxin? So when people start seeing the toxin report, they see the red, they're like, this is dangerous. It is. And then the next level, not so dangerous. We don't know that. Because the thing is about this is it's not what range you are in and compared to other people. It's which toxin you have. Right?
Yeah.
That's the important thing to understand. I want people to have 0 PFOA, which is a PFA that DuPont made. This is in the movie Dark Waters. And with 1 part per billion, they were seeing incredible birth defects, cancers in their workers. By the way, PFOA is Teflon.
Yeah. Right.
That's Teflon. And 1 part per billion. So we're seeing people come in at 0.753 nanograms per gram, or whichever unit you want to use on different ones. That's too high. Even though the government says you're within the green range because you're in the 70 percentile. This goes back to what we're saying. You can't, and I'm a mathematician, so I can say this. You can represent the numbers wrong to make your case.
Absolutely.
Every day of the week. And they're like, look, but 75% of the people are in the range. That's the range they determined for 75% of the people. That's not the safe range. What's the safe range of PFOA, Will?
0.
0. Exactly, 0.
0.
And what's the safe range of DDT or any different pesticide? It's 0.
Yeah.
And anything above 0 is a risk. Because certain people are going to have a risk at a lower level than other people are going to be a little bit more resilient to that toxin. But now we're talking about this whole universe. So I always tell people, although I can say we have 13 toxins per person on average, with 5 of them being in the 95 percentile, I would say probably everybody's toxic.
Yeah. Right. And this is, we're talking about some heavy stuff here, and it can be overwhelming, but there's so much amazing action steps that we're talking about here. So it's such a, I think a double-edged sword that we're living in, right? While we are exposed to so much, there's a silver lining in this that we have action steps. We can do something about it, right?
Correct. Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that we say about the toxins is we also measure the inflammation. Those are markers that we all know: CRP, sedimentation rate. We check the immune system. By the way, the immune system is half as strong as it was 40 years ago in the same age group. And that's because of the toxins causing immunosuppressant, which is why we have a lot more of these chronic diseases. Everybody's like, but the immune system's suppressed. Why do we have more autoimmunity? Autoimmunity is a confused immune system.
Yeah.
You can be less in strength, but more confused.
Yeah.
Think about any little old man who's got dementia. He's smaller and more confused. And those two, they actually go together quite nicely. So
Yeah.
power doesn't mean good and strong, but sometimes we have the people who have hyperimmunity and confusion, and those are really the sickest of all the autoimmunities. We can get into that as well.
Yeah.
So we have to just not look at the toxins. You have to look at the immunity. You have to look at the inflammation, the oxidation, all these other markers. And bottom line is, then you have to look at what symptoms, if any, this person have.
Hmm.
Most people don't have symptoms, and the first symptom they have is the disease state that the toxins are causing on their genes. So
Hmm.
whatever it is in your family, suddenly it's like, I have Alzheimer's, or I'm starting to get Alzheimer's. And that's why you want to get these toxins out before they get significant. And here's the good news. You don't have to do plasma exchange in most cases to do that.
Hmm.
And that's maybe some big like, really? Yeah, really, you don't. What you do have to do is pay attention to your environment and clean it up. What you do have to do is some just basic things to detoxify. And those work in we would say the vast majority of the people that we see, we don't think they're to the point yet where they need to go plasma exchange. We think they're to the point yet where they need to take attention to their health.
Got it. You're right. I mean, these environmental toxins are dysregulating the body,
Everything,
dysregulating the
everything.
endocrine system and the immune system and the nervous system. And I think of the molecular mimicry of what's happening in the case of autoimmunity when
Yeah.
researchers refer to this phenomenon as the immune system losing recognition of self. And like you said, it's a confused immune system. It thinks your
Well,
body.
the immune system sees all these toxins it's never seen before, and it
Yeah.
develops antibodies to it, so it can fight it off. It's just that those antibodies happen to look like a piece of tissue that you have at the same time,
Yeah.
because we were never meant to have these particles that weren't biologic, or and that have all these different parts that start getting an antibody that starts attacking something in us that we weren't expecting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Okay. So can you go through a typical for a plasma exchange protocol?
Sure.
How long does it take? Do we have to go physically somewhere? What's the rundown there?
So the protocol that we have, including the plasma exchange, starts out with you doing an online visit with one of our docs, me, one of my colleagues, and then we go get testing, because everybody, I always say, let's make sure where you are. Now, everybody needs plasma exchange, so people come in like, I need it because I'm afraid I'm going to have Alzheimer's. I need it because I'm starting to develop this, and I want this to be. They're not going to have any argument, but let's get the toxins so we have measure points. So later on, we know what we need to look at for you to make sure that we keep you under control. There's a lot of reasons to do these testing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're doing the plasma protocol, you have to have testing. It's not just necessarily blood tests, it's urine tests, it's poke your finger tests, it's mental assessment tests. There's a whole plethora that we do for people depending on which protocol we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Then we start teaching you what the plasma exchange is, because it's scary. I mean, you're going into a room or this machine the size of a cabinet, and it has bags hanging out of it. And then you're going to have an IV put in one arm and an IV put in the other arm. And that's one where the blood comes out, and then one blood goes back in. And anytime you have body fluid of yours coming out of you, doing something, coming back into you, it can be frightening.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is frightening. And I remember the first time I hooked myself, because I was patient number one on this whole protocol. I was like, okay, I'm nervous, but I'd done it before. When I was a resident in ER, I knew what to expect. But we've gone to great deals so people understand what the experience is going to be like, because I want to reassure everybody we've done 300 of these now, well, since I last talked to you, and we haven't had a side effect except for 2 people with a minor rash. So it's safe. We got it down to and it's been known to be safe. We've just made it better. And so you get this process done. After you're done, we have different protocols that we have option to do different things. We can actually put in some nutrients back in. While you got the IVs in, let's give you some IV nutrients. We can give you antioxidants. While you got the IV in, let's give you some antioxidants. We might be doing some infusion of immunoglobulins, because maybe what's going on with you is more organic, and we need to give you some more fighting ability because your immune system's been suppressed. Now toxins are coming out, it's going to get better. But in the meantime, maybe we give you some of these antibodies so that you can start healing the process a little bit quicker. Then there's just all these different things that we do. And then by the time you're going home, you have your assignments. We have an app that teaches you how to keep yourself clean, but there's also how to take these supplements every day. This is a supplement that we tested. There are no toxins in it. We use rice protein. We all use natural products, but it has 65 different things in it that make your body better, stronger. And this was developed with all my team of 40 people of nutrition. We know all these people, right? These people that are the smartest people in the book. And then 4 weeks later, you come back and you do it again. And you do that, and then you keep repeating that process. In some cases, it's one. In some cases, it's two, some three, some five, some eight. Really depends on what you're coming in for, what we're
Mhm.
looking for. And then when you're done with that, we enter into a regenerative phase. Now, if you're coming in and we're not doing anything other than removing your toxins and take care of inflammation. We have the published paper, the papers being published, we show we can do that. But what we've known in medicine for a very long time is you can't heal the tissues when inflammation's going on. You can't
Mhm.
walk into the forest and plant trees when the forest is on fire. It
Mhm.
doesn't work that way. Exosomes, which are the little guys that go and cause repair to the cells, don't go into the middle of a forest fire and start giving messages to heal, because that destroys them. And some people have to start understanding there's a time that we can start doing different things along the way to help you heal, including nutrients, peptides, extracellular vesicles, all these different things that help a regenerative phase. And
Mhm.
what we say there is we're improving your brain health, we're improving your heart health. I am in no way saying that we're curing Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or heart disease or any of these major things. What I'm saying is we've removed the toxins, we've turned off the inflammation, we're giving you natural things to help your tissues become stronger and better. And then we move on to the final phases. Now you got it good. Just keep it up and let's test you for whichever we need to test you for every so often to make sure you're keeping up the good, because you don't know what you don't test.
Yeah. Yep. And the clinic, what are the locations? Where do people go to get the procedure?
So right now we have my clinic in Chicago, but we have signed up 6 clinics that we will bring in on the first 2 quarters of 2025. We have 6 more clinics that we're bringing on the second 2 quarters of 2025. And then we have signed up 42 clinics for 2026. And we already have signed up 70 clinics for 2027. And it
Wow.
goes on and on.
That's
Yeah, we have
amazing.
the amount of doctors, the amount of businesses, the amount of people saying we need this. Everybody in our industry understands why,
That's amazing.
because we know that
Yeah.
this is, in my opinion, and many of our colleagues, and I think you share, chronic inflammation is the driver of everything bad, and
Yeah.
toxins are behind it almost 100%. That's not true
Yeah.
60 years ago, but it's certainly true today.
Yeah. Well, and without a doubt, what we're talking about here is in my opinion, the existential, if not the, it's one of the existential problems of humanity.
That's
And
right.
obviously, we're intimately connected to our environment. It's the existential
Correct.
issue with environmental
Right.
problems as well, these same toxins. Okay,
Yeah.
so you mentioned coming back for 1 or 2 sessions, sometimes more. How long does one session last? How long is the person there for?
You're in the office for about a total of 4 hours. For the first hour, we're doing your weight, we're checking your blood sample, we're getting the IV started, but we have a very highly trained staff of IV nurses. As a matter of fact, all of our IV nurses came from hospital IV teams, because what we figured out pretty quickly is we need somebody who's really, really good with IV management, and that's who we
Yeah.
hired. And as you know, in the world of nursing, those nurses aren't cheap, but they're totally valuable, because that's what if you don't have that kind of expertise, you're not going to get the process done.
Yeah.
But the process itself, in most cases, takes about 2 hours. Now, sometimes it can take up to 3 if we're having trouble with what we call the intake IV, where the blood's coming out of. It's not positioned right. It's up against the wall. All these different things that you have with IV access. But I would say in our statistics, we're over 90% of our patients are through with that procedure within 2 hours and 15 minutes. And then you have the other hour where we might be infusing different things, like I said, the nutrients, the immunoglobulins, or other things that we're doing for different types of health protocols. But you're usually out of there within about 4 hours. And you're out of there on your own power. Think about it like an IV center where you're going in for a performance IV.
Yeah.
You're just there for a little bit longer. It's a little bit more expensive, quite a bit more expensive, but the process is more involved. But it's not. All the different things, being an ER doctor and a doctor for 40 years. There's a lot of things that keep you from becoming able to go home. People go home afterwards
Yeah.
on their own power.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so what you mentioned some of these other nutrients that are
Yeah.
supportive of detox. What are your top favorite nutrient supplements, compounds that are supportive
Wow.
of detox?
Wow. That's tough. That's a hard one. Well, that's a really
Yeah,
hard one, because there's so many essential nutrients. I mean, we talk about the essential vitamins, but in our group, we always talk about essential nutrients we don't get in our food anymore.
right.
And so this is one of the other problem that we have, is the nutrient depletion in the food, which is why we live in my partner and I, we live in Brazil because of food's better here, European Union. People all the time like, I went to Europe and I ate all this stuff and I came back I lost weight. Of course you did, because they don't have all this GMO toxic, all this stuff in their food like we do here. And you're not exposed to it in the water, in the air, everything else. But I would have to say probably my top 3 nutrients. Wow, well, quercetin's on the top of that list. I love quercetin. I would have to say capsaicin is on the top of the list. Because of the way it takes care of senescent cells and precancer cells. I would say resveratrol is on the top of my list. Vitamin D has to be there because it's a major antioxidant, and then glutathione because it's the other major antioxidant.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's different. If you had asked me, people did ask me 30 years ago, what were my favorite nutrients? Those weren't it. It was B vitamins, vitamin D, adrenal complexes. Nowadays is anti-inflammatories, antioxidants, anti-cancer, because that's what people are missing the most of. We've depleted the body. It's interesting. People I don't understand. I get a lot of sunshine, but vitamin D is always in the 30. Why is that? It's not that you're not getting enough sunshine. It's that you have too many oxidants. And vitamin D is the antioxidant. You're burning through it so fast.
Yeah.
That's why all of us don't get enough sunshine anymore to be able to manage all the oxidation that we have going in the body because of the toxins.
So well said. You're spending more than you're taking in.
100%.
Yeah.
Or like we say, you're burning through it like nobody's business.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, when you fix these issues, and I've seen this time and time again, when you take the supplements, then your levels will stay in the optimal zone because your reserves can be stable and they're not being spent like they were being spent before with that massive
when you finish
deficit.
with the plasma exchange, your nutrient values requirements drop considerably.
Yeah, it's powerful. I mean, that
makes sense, right? Makes sense.
100%.
Like, wow, I don't need 10,000 IUs of vitamin D anymore.
Yes.
I need 2,000 IUs. What happened?
Yeah.
You don't have the oxidations going on anymore.
And this is why when you look at past generations, people say like, wow, my grandparents didn't have to worry about this. Yeah, you're right. They didn't. They didn't live in the world we live in.
That's right.
And that's why we be talking ad nauseum about these topics.
Or how about this one? I'm not worried because cancer doesn't run in my family.
Right.
Historically, that's true.
That was the thing. Yeah.
However, the environment now, we're living in a toxic soup. All the cards are off the table. Yeah. I mean, it's just, or they're back on the table, how you ever want to look at it. Alzheimer's doesn't run in my family. It does now.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So back to that stress test picture and that symbolism of that. Okay, so what are some other ways for people to just decrease their toxic burden? Any like actionable steps people can take right now to start to clean up their life?
So in honor of you, MD Lifespan at www.mdlifespan.com, Will Cole, you can download our newest generation of the Guide to Staying Clean. It's a PDF that talks about why you want to stay clean, what the toxins are, which ones are out there, and you need to be very concerned for you, your kids, and everybody you love, and then the steps that you can take to keep them out of your world. 90% of the toxins that you're exposed to that are harmful to you are inside your house already. Mm-hmm. And there's ways to mitigate all of those risks. And we're not talking about a lot of expensive money to do so. We're talking about switching cosmetic products. We're talking about switching cleaning products. We're talking about buying food that's real food from a source you trust and then washing the heck out of it. Remember the old days, like, don't peel the fruit because that's where all the fiber is. Peel the fruit. I mean, nowadays it's all the toxins are in there too. Peel the fruit, peel anything you can do. Or there's vegetables, baths you can put it in, but then you got to wash them still. Food, taking care of your food is huge. But above that as well is putting in a triple filter reverse osmosis water system.
Yeah.
And only drinking out of that. I was patient number 1. I've always had heart disease. I've significantly minimized my heart disease and my toxins. I did the heart disease first and my toxins second. I'm sure if I had this available, I would have done the toxins and heart disease. I worked at it for 20 years. But what I've done, and since we've done this protocol, is I'm very careful and I'm very cautious about what I drink. Everything comes out of our triple filter reverse osmosis. Everything is in a stainless steel rubber container. We don't use plastics in our house. Everything's Pyrex, rubber, cork. We don't use wood. We use wood utensils. We don't use Teflon pans. We don't use plastic anything in this house. Matter of fact, we take it out of the plastic before it comes in the house. We go to the farmer's market. We buy online produce and things that are known to be safe. Your food and your water and your air in your house are the most important. We have solutions for you that are consumer reports tested or we tested, and we can say, these are the things you need to use. Do that. Spend your money there for your family and for yourself. Take care to get rid of the fabrics in your house. You don't need the carpeting. You don't need the drapes. You can put up wood blinds. You can put down stone floors, wood floors, and stop putting anything other than oil on the floor. Get rid of these products that are under your sink. It's amazing because all the patients we've done so far, well, 95% to 97% of the toxins we got are still out at 18 months. Everybody thinks that's not possible. It is possible.
Yeah.
We're showing it's possible. And so we didn't know when we first started this when we would have to do the next plasma exchange. The
Yeah.
answer is we haven't had to do one repeat yet.
It's amazing because you're teaching them and you're clearing this stuff out.
And it's a protocol.
Yeah.
It's not just a plasma exchange. If you're going for the plasma exchange for longevity purposes, stop.
Yeah.
There's more to it.
Yeah.
It's not about giving yourself a younger kid's plasma. It's about this is a time in medicine we need to realize it's not about what you can take. It's about what you can give, what you take out that matters in this case.
Yeah.
And keep out.
You mentioned heart disease. Can you tell people, for people that don't know, some of the wild data out there with microplastics and arteries is pretty staggering.
But let's go from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Microplastics in babies. It's in the meconium. It's in the blood. We know it's in every tissue of the newborn
almost every
fetus.
baby.
It's in the placenta. But 200 toxins have been detected in the umbilical cord. This is a problem. If you're a woman who's going to think about having a child, get tested for your toxins, including your microplastics, and then do everything you can to lower your exposure, and then retest before you get pregnant to make sure you've done your best that you could. We don't have publishable data, but we have one case report of a client of ours who came in at a very young age. She had a lot of toxins and inflammation. We only got her through 2 plasma exchanges before she got pregnant. She was like, I'm pregnant. I'm like, great, no more plasma exchange. Here's the funny thing, or the interesting thing. The kid was born on August 1st. The doctors at the hospital, this is Valparaiso, Indiana, very toxic state, Indiana. They commented at birth on how pink the baby was. They haven't seen a baby that pink before. Wow. And this child has now registered the lowest bilirubin jaundice rating of any child in that hospital for 20 years. What? And they're looking at this lady like, what did you do? And she's like, I got the toxins out. And they're like, how did you do this? I mean, now this is what we expect.
Yeah.
We didn't expect the bilirubin. What we expected with birth defects would come down, autism will come down, ADHD in kids will come down. We can't prove that. But it makes entirely sense. If you're a mom, get tested before you get pregnant. Do everything you can to get yourself clean, even including if you need to plasma exchange. And so we have this protocol, his funny thing is the protocol we put together for getting moms clean had 2 plasma exchanges in it. That's all we thought we needed. And then by happenstance, one of our clients did it with 2, and we had a low bilirubin, the lowest they've ever recorded. So first off, moms, that's important and moms, after they've delivered, it's in the breast milk, it's everywhere. So you got to be careful. These kids are very fragile developmentally, and you're throwing these toxins which are disruptive in every way. Moving down the road there further, we have the longevity protocol, and this isn't just about plasma exchange. It's about improving your biomarkers. It's about making your telomeres longer. It's about making your cognition better. That's a biomarker. It's about making these new epigenomic markers move in a positive direction. And we are having fantastic success in moving that. And that paper has been published by the San Diego group, the Kiproff group, and that they're showing that. Then we have our papers coming out on the toxins, and we've reduced every toxin. We're not talking about a little bit here, Will. We're talking about 80, 85, 89, 90%. Here's the interesting thing. The further you're out from our protocol, the lower the toxins are going. Because once we get you unbound and your detox system works and you're restricting, it just has nothing to do except continue to get better. Then finally, let's point this gun at things that are really terrible. Cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, heart disease, autoimmune diseases. And we have, it just makes sense that once you get all these offending agents out, you
Hmm.
might be able to start improving the health of the person, their
Yeah.
heart health, their brain health, their immune system health. We already know from our
Yeah.
studies that the immune system is up 128% in people in just 6 months after the procedures are done. So this is a paradigm shift
Yeah.
coming on in medicine. And that's why there's so many people looking at us and our protocols. It's not just me, Will. We have 27 plays. I've grown from 3 to 27 since our last visit. Our administrative staff, our advisory staff has grown from 2 to 12. And we have
Amazing.
some of the leaders in the field. When I start mentioning the names, you're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, really, because we know that this is the beginning of a solution. It
Yeah.
may not be the final solution, but it certainly is a big step because the first time ever, we have a safe, effective, universal way to get out every toxin, turn off inflammation, turn off oxidation, turn off senescence, and improve the immune system.
Yeah. When you think of, you mentioned the what a beautiful story with the mom and the baby, and that you
Yeah,
think of systemically, socially, what's going on with the rise of infertility, right, and the role that these environmental
it
toxins are
is
playing. Um,
100%.
and you're allowing the human body to human to be what it was meant to be, and we're impeding
Right.
it with this toxic soup that we're exposed to. That I want to go back, if we could, to the arteries, like the microplastic research looking at the microplastics in people's arteries and the
Right.
increased risk. Like, it's exponentially increases your
It
risk of
is.
heart
It
attack
is.
and stroke.
As a note here, doc, if you have microplastics in your plaque, which 67% of the guys whose plaque was tested had microplastics, you have a 450% higher risk of having a heart attack in a very short period of time. This is alarming in the world of
Yeah.
arterial disease. And we have many different characters that we're working with, wonderful people who are directors of large universities. Like, how fast can we move? We're already moving on detecting microplastics better. Um, just in the whole blood sample, because we don't have the blood spots back yet, but just in the whole blood, we have the microplastics down from blood testing almost to zero at 6 months. And this is clinically and statistically significant by numbers. We need more study, but I'm a numbers guy. And you
Hmm.
don't get 6 people with relatively high microparticles amount to a relatively low of zero uh, microparticle amount in 6 months and have it go even lower later unless you've actually done something to impact that.
Yeah, yeah. All right. I'd love to touch on, we have social media and all of these trends and things that are going on online, some good, some not so good. What are the top detox trends out there? Let's like debunk some detox myths and
Sure.
misconceptions. Like, what are some popular detox trends that you see as an issue concerning to you?
Well, I think that's it's the ones that are the truth and the ones that are the fiction, right?
Hmm.
Between the two of them. Truth, good organic food that you clean and consume that's not processed does decrease your toxic load. Not only does it keep you from putting more toxins in, it gives you what you need to get toxins out. So let's make clear of that one. It's very good. Drinking enough water and having it be triple filter reverse osmosis helps you reduce the toxin load because your kidneys need to perfuse greatly to get all these big particles and these significant amount of these particles out. So those are two truths. Good food, good water are good detox.
Yeah.
A falsehood, a falsehood. You can take a vitamin drink or vitamin solution and you can detox. That does not get the toxins out.
No.
Good food will because fiber pulls it out at a slow rate. Not, I mean, it's like 7 to 17%. It moves. It doesn't move the mountain, but it does move it. Water dilutes it, and it will move. But everybody's like, my issue is when they start saying these different supplements detox people. No, these supplements are antioxidants and anti-inflammatories, and they don't remove the toxins. What they do is negate to a degree the effect the toxins having on the body because toxins are inflammatory and oxidants.
Hmm.
So the big thing that I have a real bit hard time with is the detox diets,
Yeah.
where you eat these certain foods and they're going to remove your toxins. No, the fiber through the colon removes a certain amount of toxins. water that's pure and not getting in helps you eliminate through sweat and urine. But other than that, there is no
Hmm.
nutrient part that really significantly changes that equation. And
Hmm.
that's been proved time and time again in the traditional world, which is why they're always pointing the finger at the integrated world and saying, you guys are lying, because they are. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Chelation can pull out heavy metals.
Yes.
We know that.
Chelators.
But the biggest, and saunas can remove some of the phenols. It can remove some of the other, things. Some of the other toxins like the pesticides, because you can sweat some of these out. But all considered, well, and this is what you and I faced for the last 30 years, all considered doing all of these things at once. A good day, you're going to get about 7 to 17% of the toxins out, and the
Hmm.
rest are still left behind.
Yeah.
That's been the major issue. So
Yeah.
when people like, I can get you completely detoxed, anything short of plasma exchange, I consider that to be a falsehood.
Yeah, you're right. And so these compounds you mentioned, like quercetin, we can think of N-acetylcysteine,
Yeah,
other,
which is the precursor of glutathione,
yeah.
which is, yeah.
So these are supportive. Could you explain it for people? So we are kind of talking about, we talked earlier about some supplements that are supportive of detox pathways or maybe supportive of methylation, other ones. What's the difference between that and what you're talking about with TPE?
Well, then that should be clear.
Yeah,
Quercetin doesn't detox.
yeah.
Glutathione helps you detox by providing a method of, you know, it's an antioxidant. There are methyl groups which help certain chemicals come out, but none of these supplements in and of themselves, even combined to a lot of other supplements, is able to pull the toxins out. What they do is the toxins cause inflammation. The toxins are oxidants, and what these supplements do is negate those effects.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
The plasma exchange literally takes the toxins out.
Hmm.
I mean, it's literally, it is, in my opinion, the only true way of saying I can get the toxins out, plasma exchange. But we've known that about plasma exchange for 50 years. It's
Hmm.
just nobody thought about, hey, we used to use it on acute overdoses of drugs. We used to use it on overdoses of chemicals with plasma exchange. That's one of the 167 things we use it for. But nobody thought for a minute, you know what? I bet you we can use it on all these chronic toxins that people have in the body and get them all out, because the adage is still true. When in doubt, freeze it out, because that's what pheresis does. It takes out the good, the bad, and the ugly. So giving back the nutrients, good idea. But
Hmm.
that doesn't get out more toxins. It just lets the body heal faster, repair faster.
Yeah,
It's the plasma exchange that's getting it out.
yeah.
And then you learn to not put it back in, and you learn to take the supplements to help the body work better, including the detox pathways, which have been injured from the toxins. And that's the secret sauce.
Yeah. As you know, the podcast, it's called The Art of Being Well. We did this last time we were here. At the end of every episode, we do Your Art of Being Well. I don't remember what I asked you last time, so just on top of my head, I'm going to throw different questions at you. What's the weirdest wellness thing that you've done that you're willing to admit on a podcast, Paul?
That was useful or not useful?
Let's go. Good distinction there. Just the most
I,
most out of the box, and then the verdict of that.
I spent almost 2 weeks at the Optimum Health Institute in San Diego. And if anybody's not familiar with that, it's where you eat wheatgrass every day for every meal,
Yeah.
and you drink a grain instilled water every day, and it's all raw food. Um, and that was a weird. I'd have to say that's a weird, because it's just not me. I mean, and you walk through the door, your technology goes in the box. You get it for 15 minutes a day, and then the rest of the day you're talking to people, getting saunas. But you're getting wheatgrass pastes all over you, or drinking just incredible amounts of wheatgrass. That was the weirdest thing I've ever done. And it was also probably the most eye-opening, because it really changed my mind on, wow, you really do need to get away from technology. Wow, you really do need to eat raw vegetables, not cooked vegetables, for all the reasons that everybody said, because so many things got better with me that even today I'm still doing a vegetable blended drink. That's my morning every day. And it has, some days it has carrots, some days it has spinach, some days, I mean, just anything I can go to the market and find that looks good and fresh, and maybe a little, and always have a little bit of fruit. Um, now I put NAD powder in it because we don't get enough NAD. I might put some glutathione in it because I can drink it that way too. I would say that's the weirdest thing I ever did, and also the most beneficial.
I
It
love
was
it.
really, it really changed a modern Paul, which was technology and fast, to slow it down, buddy. And the thing that I tell people all the time, you don't have to always be slow. You should speed up. And if you always speed up, you should be slow. It's about letting your body needs to adapt,
Yeah.
and you need to adapt. You need to change your speeds. Um, you need to change your nutrients. You need to change your surroundings. You need to change your friends. You need to change your thoughts. You need to
Mm.
change your life, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, I
How's
love
that?
that.
How's that?
Wisdom. I love it. So I want the recipe. It seems like you kind of take whatever you have on hand in the fridge, but like what's in this morning vegetable slash fruit slash NAD elixir that you make in the morning? What are the other
So
ingredients?
I want to be real clear.
Okay.
When I say fresh vegetables, I mean as fresh as I can get. And I'm in Brazil, so the morning guy, the guy that comes down from the mountain every day with all his, and there was no pesticides. And so, I mean, you can smell the fruit cart a block away before he's here. I mean, it's like, wow, I have not smelled anything like that for 50 years. And even in the United States, we have a farmer's market that's open every day, and I go to the farmer's market, see what do they have, and that's in my mix for the next morning or for that day. So what do I put in it? Almost always, I put in fresh, clean berries. So it's organic, non-pesticide, because berries are top of the dirtiest 12, but they also have this incredible amount of antioxidants. So blueberries, raspberries, sometimes strawberries. But I put in handfuls, handfuls of blueberries, not blueberries. Not a fruit smoothie. And then probably the mainstay is Napa cabbage.
Oh,
Because Napa cabbage has a lot of cruciferous, it has a lot of fiber, it has very little
sulforaphane.
taste. So you
Yeah.
can get all the fiber, and then celery, which has a little bit more of a taste, and then spinach almost always, or kale, or arugula, or endive, or whatever I have that's in a green leafy dark vegetable for the day. So I got my dark green, I got my light green, I got my fiber. Then I throw in a carrot. I throw in a pepper, a little bit of a red pepper, a little bit of a yellow pepper, and you got to do it to taste, because some of these vegetables you got to kind of be a little easy on, especially the peppers. And every once in a while you can throw in asparagus or broccoli, but you can't throw in much of that because that just takes over the flavor. When you do that every day and you blend it up in some water, some filtered reverse osmosis water, you need to drink it down within 15, 20 minutes, because otherwise the fiber starts to
Yeah.
absorb the water, which you want it absorbing the toxins that you
Right.
do. So I always tell people, don't let it sit there. The whole point is you mix it with enough water to get it drinkable, and then you just sit there and you drink it.
Chug
If you
it.
want to add inside nice purified rice powder, if you want to add in some NAD, if you want some glutathione so you can actually get it in your system better, go to it.
Got it. Love it. I mean, it sounds like the master class of smoothies. So just to be clear, you are blending this. You mentioned fiber. They're not juicing this.
Juicing, no. Fiber is the key element here for detoxification. And when you're just juicing, you took out all the fiber. That is the one thing the body needs to feed the bacteria in your gut and to pull the toxins out. It acts like paper towel, because it is paper towel, and it goes through your gut and absorbs all these oils and all these toxins so you can poop it out. Depriving yourself of fiber is one of the major reasons on this other part of the toxin equation that we can't get healthy, because we don't have the paper towel scrubbing our colon every day.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Great analogy. And to be clear, do not put an actual paper towel in that blender and blend it up.
Sure.
That's not what I was talking about.
Can you not do that? I mean,
No, yeah.
Seriously.
No.
You can't do that? No, teach me something. No, well, teach me. It's methylcellulose. Why can't I put paper towel into a vegetable?
Okay, maybe a good organic paper towel, but I'm thinking like a hefty.
Oh, process.
Hefty.
Okay, got the process. Okay, yeah. I'm like, okay. No, yeah, let's tell everybody.
No, but with like
don't drink bleach, don't drink bleach, and don't eat paper towels. Let's go.
I'm thinking of like the one with like the coloring and the ink on it, and then blending it
Oh,
up.
no, I was just thinking methylcellulose, just dumping it in there.
Yeah.
But you're right. Methylcellulose is processed because I went outside, got a tree, and shimmied it a lot. But let's make it clear for your readers. No drinking bleach, no eating paper towels.
Yeah. If you've learned nothing else in today's episode, you live in Brazil. Like, what's your favorite part of Brazilian life?
My favorite part of Brazilian life is the pace, but it's also the fact that I'm 2 hours ahead of my team.
Oh,
Because I get up at 5 a.m. It's 3 a.m. your time.
Yeah.
And then by the time, and I can go to my bike ride, which is on the beach every day. I can show you pictures, but I spend that time, 40 minutes, riding my bike, just amazing at the sun and going through everything I'm grateful for every day. That's how I start my day. Then I go to the gym and I lift my weights for 30 minutes. Not bad for a 60-year-old, 60, almost 65-year-old. And then I go have my breakfast, which is always a clean, nice, healthy, whatever is the meal. But it's at this little we got padaria, it's just, and I have some bread. You need bread? It's right off the mountain, fresh wheat. They make it into fresh grain with fresh yeast, and it's a piece of that, not a problem. Then I come home and I can get showered, get ready, sit down, do 2 hours a week, 2 hours of work, shooting it off to you, your staff. And they're like, is he up at 5 o'clock in the morning? He's up at 3 our time, and your staff gets all the emails from me, like we're talking to different things. And then my team comes on board at 8 a.m. That's the best part about living in Brazil is I can pace all this stuff through my work-life balance so that by 8 a.m., I get to start out at a reasonable pace. And now with you, I'm at the end of my day. And
Yeah.
after this, I'm done.
Yeah. I love that. Get ahead of the day. Do you know Portuguese?
Eu falo pouco português. Para 3 anos, eu preciso aprender a falar português também.
Oh,
Yeah, I know a little bit. I know a little bit.
wow. A little bit. I just know one word. Obrigado. Did I say it right?
Obrigado.
Obrigado.
Você,
Obrigado.
muito bom. Você, muito bom.
I love it.
Falar perfecto.
Thank you. My friend, where do people go? Where do they go to learn more about this amazing therapy and protocol?
MD Lifespan. Please come to the website, mdlifespan.com/Will Cole. Get a guide that helps you learn please read. This is probably one of the most important things that you're going to read this year because it sets out for you not only what the dangers are, but how to avoid them and what to use. We've gone to a great deal, and well, it's everybody in the industry has come forward and said, here's the research, here's giving it freely so we can present it to your listeners, so we can say these things work. And now we have 300 of these 18 months later who are still low on their toxins and getting better every day. Here's the other interesting thing with some of these people. Once you get the toxins out, they're not better right away. 6 months later, they start getting better. 12 months later, they keep getting better. The body's healing. It just takes a little time. We've said in medicine before, I can get you out half the time it got you to get in. Right?
Yeah.
And so I want to set the expectation for people. I'll get your toxins out within 1 or 2 treatments. We go 5 because for some people, they have so many, we have to drive these things down. But there's protocols that we have for 3 that are people who are like, my toxins aren't too bad, but I'm worried and I want to, okay, let's do 3 because I only want to do as many as we need to do. Again, the other thing is since the last time I saw you, we've driven the price down another 15%. And we drove it down 30% because now we're expanding. It's bigger, it's more. And if there's anything, I'm the numbers guy. And I don't have one company. We have 3 companies now.
Yeah.
We have an association with education. We have an association for a business for research, and we have a business for the business. And we're driving that bus down. So our goal is within the next year, next time I'm on with you, we'll have a dozen centers out there in a location near you, and another visit after that. They'll be real close.
So cool. I remember when you first told me about this at the beginning was that your goal and passion and heart for this was to make this accessible, affordable for everybody. And you're doing that. So it's beautiful to see your intention with this, your mission with this come to life because you know how powerful it is for people. And I appreciate you wanting to come on here to get the word out. Yeah. You could go anywhere. So I thanks for the update. I love hearing it.
So 2 things is it's not me. We have a whole bunch of people behind us, both from the business world, from the governmental world, from the medical world, who are helping drive this bus now. We have a bus full of people it's becoming a juggernaut. Second thing is, for any of the listeners that are listening to your podcast for the first time, this is the podcast you want to stick with, guys.
Thank you.
And I've said this before, I'll say it again. I can do what I do, but if I don't have somebody who get the message out for it, it doesn't do anything. And we appreciate you, and I appreciate you specifically for the doctor you are, for the man you are, and for doing this mission that you are. Is let's get good information out and let's tell the truth. If you haven't, hey listeners, if you haven't listened to his Kellogg podcast, Download it. It's on YouTube. It's a necessary listen to somebody who is saying the truth to power. And we need to say truth to power because, as Stephen Hawking, who I consider to be the smartest man who ever lived, said before he died, it's the pollution and our stupidity to it, which is the only existential threat to humans.
Thank you, my friend. That really means a lot. Come back anytime.
All right. Thanks, Will.